Good evening, it's Owen and Sarah sitting here in Miami South Beach. Beautiful place that I love to come visit every winter for well over a decade. It's Sarah's first time here. And what we want to shoot into today is a video to explain to you that in order for you to enjoy your life at all, in order for you to receive a beautiful gift, you have to work for it to even be able to enjoy it. And we see this very often where people will get an incredible life and they haven't had to work for it. Say somebody wins the lottery and they're miserable because it's almost like your tongue is numb. It's like you have the most beautiful meal in the entire world right in front of you and you put it on your tongue and you can taste nothing at all. And the reason we want to bring this up is because in many ways in consumer culture, what you're sold is a dream that you could get things easier and handed to you and not have to put in the work. But what you don't realize that if right now I were to hand you something very beautiful that you didn't earn, you wouldn't even be able to perceive it in the same way as somebody who worked for it. And the reason why we brought it up, we were actually coming out to shoot. We had one idea for a video shoot. And I decided to do a little bit of a curveball with Sarah here because, funny enough, we just shot over to grab some gear back at this beautiful resort that I stay every time that I come here.
So beautiful.
Okay, and so Sarah's sitting there and she just is jaw dropped when she just popped into the lobby of the resort. And I literally, and this drove me crazy, and this is a bit me, this is me complaining.
They had
okay?
giant Jenga and like table tennis and like
that and so much more. And but I love that's what we all perceive things. Okay, I didn't even know they had it. But funny enough, okay, because I guess maybe I need to work harder to see the Jenga. But the point being is that it was so funny for me. I had to throw a curveball on the topic here. I want to bring this up with you right now because as she walked in, it literally dawned on me over all the years that I brought different girls who I've been dating to come and crash with me at that same place.
Yeah.
I've never seen such a positive reaction. And I'm sitting there thinking, and this is funny, I was like, I've always wished that a woman that I brought here could have this reaction. And yet it's someone who I'm working with who finally has the reaction I've been waiting for 10 years. And as she was waiting for me to go grab some camera gear and different stuff, I'm thinking, why did this happen? I can't understand how this happened. And what I realized was that all the different girls I've dated over the years that I flew out here, never paid a dime to go to that hotel. And, you know, these are girls who I'm already intimate with, so I might be nice enough to get the ticket out. Never if I'm dating somebody, if we haven't, you know, been on that level yet, am I going to fly them somewhere? That's just not my style. But say that we've been dating for a while and I'm really getting along, and I fly someone to come visit with me, spend some time with me, I've never seen that reaction. They always have a nice reaction. Don't get me wrong. They always have a nice reaction. But I've never seen that kind of reaction. But funny enough, your reaction is my reaction. That's how I feel
about
when I go there.
City. It's like, you know.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
And so what I realized at that moment was the reason why finally she was able to have that reaction. I've never seen that reaction from someone there who I wasn't working with, was simply because of that basic principle that in order to even receive the gift, you have to work. So Sarah, very, very quickly, how many cities have you just traveled to do programs in? Brutal, painstaking programs, say in the last couple months. How many?
Over about 20.
Okay, so
over
20 cities,
Over
right?
20 cities.
How hard have you worked?
Very hard. Like, I have not stopped. I mean, listen to my voice. I haven't stopped the whole time. Every city, like a workshop in every single city, speaking for about, I'd say 10 hours a week at least. Like,
So here's the thing. When you walk in that room, you're like, because in your mind, because I'm the same way, right? I'm the exact same way. I'm like, when I walk in that room and I have my moment of peace, I'm like, you have like my trauma from workaholism. I'm like, this moment of peace is all I'm gonna get for a little bit.
For like 1 hour, you get 1 hour in the day. It's like, oh, so precious. And you like really, you look around and you like taking it. It's so comforting. It's like comfort.
And you actually can taste it.
Yes.
You can actually taste it. It's almost like if you're on this crazy hike and then you drink some BS like tap water that you brought with you and you're like, I can taste it.
And it's lukewarm and it's like, it's like the most refreshing. It's like you're drinking out of a fresh stream that you've just grabbed a glass of water out. Like that's how satisfying it is. I would say it's the satisfaction, you know? I mean, I could go into this, like I mean, working hard, and I like the topic of, you know, if you get flown out to a place and maybe you've done this for someone and you've flown them out, you put this effort in, and then they just don't enjoy it at all, and you go, what? How can you not?
Or maybe they enjoyed it, but they're not able to enjoy it for what it truly is.
Yeah, and for me, this really started to happen when I worked harder. all of the times, like, I have it naturally and I'm able to go into a place and just go, whoa, like, this is incredible, and really receive that within myself. But what can happen is you can put a block up. And you can put that block up if you have this outlook, this attitude that it's like, it's almost, you don't even know how to let it in, right? It's just like you've blocked it out for so long. And maybe if you are somebody who doesn't have to work very hard, or you are blessed to have a lot of amazing opportunities that just come and you get to be surrounded by that, if you grow up in a lifestyle like that, so you don't understand what it's like to really work hard and give back. I think when you start to learn the trait of giving back to people and being able to go out and work really hard, then it comes back. And when you do go to a beautiful place, or you do have an amazing opportunity, you know how to let that land. It's a lot easier for it to come in for you. So you're not like, it's like this judgment of a place, or you're just being so picky that the way that you're being picky about something, then that's how your brain interprets everything. So you can sit in this same place where we're at and go, the mosquitoes, and it's like, it's so humid out here and uncomfortable, and you find everything negative instead of all that positivity. So I think making that transition is really interesting, of how you transition from not being able to accept it to finally allowing to let it in, to let it actually land.
Yeah, I think a simple example would be, imagine if you're working for, say, let's say you had a paycheck of, say, $25 an hour, and you went to a beautiful spa, and let's say they charge you about $250, say it's in a major city, in order to get a massage, right? So now you've worked about 10 hours, right? You've been working all month, and you decide to save up $250, and then you work 10 hours to have a nice relaxing session and get your muscles massage and whatnot, so that you could have a little refreshment to get back to work. Well, if you walk in there, you're like, I'm gonna get the value out of this. I gotta get the value out of this. Versus somebody, I mean, to be honest, like, I've also brought dates onto, to a massage place, and I've seen it where they'll go in and it really is over their heads. I mean, I've seen that just to an extent, and I believe it's that I literally feel a sympathy for them, because I don't believe that they're even in a position to absorb it, right? It's like if you're surrounded by water and I pass you water, it's almost like you can't taste it. If you're in the desert, you're like, oh, water, right? Like, even when I'm hiking really hard and I get some beef jerky, just some, like, I'll go get, like, the ostrich beef jerky, like, on a hike. Yeah. Because it's protein that needs to keep. Say that we go on, like, a week-long hike, there's no refrigerator. I mean, to be funny enough, this kind of gross, but even some, like, Spam. Honestly, if you're in the middle of the bush, you got some Spam, you're like, oh, this tastes amazing. And that's what we do.
When you get a meal, you haven't had a meal, and like, when did I last eat? You're like, you just inhale it.
Yeah, but that principle of being able to truly enjoy it, that goes in so many different things in life. And I've seen this even myself. I remember when I released a program called The Blueprint, and that was my first $1 million digital product launch. I did that over a decade ago. And I worked for about 4 years on it, just murdered myself on this program for 4 years, prepared it, promoted it even for like 4 years. And, I've been mentioning it for probably the first 2 years, another 2 years, promoted it, launched it, gave everything I had to it, put in about $100,000 to record it. And I remember when I launched it, I got that money, and I'm like, I deserve a trip. So I decided I'm going to go out and drive in Mexico. And I drove huge chunks of Mexico, so maybe 15 cities over about 6 weeks in Mexico. We went through the beautiful parts, the really rough parts. We saw a ton of stuff. And I remember at one point, it was the first time in my entire life I'd gone a long time without working. And it's funny because when you work, you don't necessarily get this like pleasure of titillation, like a good taste on your mouth, or some kind of sensual titillation or feeling titillation or entertainment per se. But when you work hard, you have this sense of self-esteem. You might get present to the moment. You might feel a feeling of aggression towards your work and tackling a goal, a feeling of self-satisfaction. There's a feeling when you look in the mirror where you have this huge, bright smile. And that self-esteem, what a lot of rich people don't realize if they had it given to them, like say a rich kid, is that money can't buy that. You can't bottle that and sell that. That comes only from hustle, and hustle in something that you believe in.
Yeah, I love that point, actually, just to add on that when you do get that abundance, that financial abundance, and you're sitting in that incredible home, you've worked so hard to get it, you're sitting there and you have that moment, and then you go, okay, this is cool, but what else? Like, what else is there? I think when you finally build that up, like if you're not actually learning the whole way how to enjoy it, every step of the way, you lose touch with it. I've worked with clients that this exact thing has happened. It's usually the more successful people that struggle with this very thing. They lose touch with reality. They actually lose touch with how to feel. It's really strange. It's like, you have to retrain yourself how to connect with creativity, because I believe that creativity is actually linked to how you're able to let that land, because the openness and your creative, like playful, childlike mind, that's where that feeling comes from. So you've seen, the way I view it, it's like, hey, like you've seen a beach before, you've seen palm trees maybe, or you've seen the city that you live in a million times, you've walked down the same street maybe, the street where you live. So you're very familiar with a lot of these things. Now when you go traveling, yes, it's all new and exciting and it's slightly different. But then when you travel a lot, and this is what I've realized, every city is slightly different but the same. So in theory, I view it as two options, right? You can start to go, oh, this is all the same.
By the way.
Do you know what I mean? Like, oh,
I know where you're taking this. I really agree.
It's all the same. Like, yeah, okay, there's the library or the big statue in the middle of the city, then there's maybe the beach, then there's the mountains or something like that. But it's the same in every single place you go. It's just a little bit different, maybe a little bit colder, then maybe a little bit more tropical, maybe it's a bit warmer, like Miami. Like I just came back from Europe and it's freezing. But again, it's like, it's very easy to desensitize yourself from all of it. But what you have to realize is finding the subtleties and the beauty within everything. It's not just the environment that you're in. And I always tune into that childlike feeling. And I believe this is something that most adults, like a big chunk of society, has lost touch with. And that's how you learn how to receive and be grateful and actually let that land, okay? So you have to, I would even say just going out and smiling and connecting with people, that's the way that I find the beauty. Sharing the beauty around you. Actually sharing it. Say when you walk down the street or you're down by the beach, like here in Miami, it's like walk around and actually connect with people and share it. Okay, so we're talking about if you're not giving back your vessel. I would love to hear your points on your vessel not even actually being able to allow it to receive it. I think that's a really important point. When you share something, because humans are wired to give back. It's like a huge part. Most people are like, oh yes, and I want to give back to the world, or I want to help other people. I believe this is directly linked to it. If you share a beautiful moment or share looking at the moon. I'm looking at the moon right now and you say, oh, look how beautiful the moon is. That's incredible. We're now sharing a moment. You're getting that human connection, and that's how you not only transfer that energy, but you can receive it too. I've now opened myself up. But if I'm all just in my own head and oh yeah, that's cool, whatever, millions of other people have seen that. I could just go on Google and look at the moon. It's that rawness of the moment, that unique rawness. You will never get that moment again. After this, whatever you're doing, you're not going to get that moment again. None of us are. So that leads into that time. To me as well, time is huge. Okay?
Value your time.
Yeah, value that time. But again, I would love to hear your opinion on what you were saying about the vessel not being able to receive it. Yeah, I think that's a really important point.
Well, I like your point, and to lead into that with the idea that when you're trying, and bring it back to the Mexico trip as well. So to combine those two, actually. So what you said there, where because you're having that experience, that's funny because this is the first time that you kind of mentioned to me that you observed that actually.
Yes.
And it's something that I think any instructor that I've ever worked with observes. Myself as an instructor, I've observed it where, let's say that you go to, let's call it Philadelphia, Boston, DC, New York. Although I think New York's a little bit different, but the point being is you could literally start to tell yourself that they look the same because you get into the airport, you're in the suburbs, you kind of drive through a typical suburb. Most suburbs have in America will have your Best Buy, your Burger King, your McDonald's, your Walmart, et cetera, et cetera. Then you get kind of in downtown. It has a couple unique buildings, has a couple okay buildings, couple city landmarks, couple statues, couple bars. And I remember we've been running our team since 2002, and we started bringing on people a couple years in. And I remember around 2006, a buddy of mine who I really like, he used to instruct with us. Haven't seen him in years, but amazing guy. It was before social media. Amazing guy though. But one challenge, and I've said this to him and I have conversed on this, but I remember at one point I said to him, the most incredible thing doing this coaching is the fact that we get to travel and see the world. Isn't that amazing, right? You yourself would have amazing things in your life, things that are unique to you that I wouldn't experience, Sarah wouldn't experience. My ex-coach, my friend, wouldn't experience. And this is something kind of a cool thing that we have to experience, right? We will kill ourselves to get it, but one thing we get to experience is travel. So I said, man, isn't it amazing we get to travel? He says, you know, bro, at a certain point, all cities are kind of the same, and you know, and you might even be feeling this too.
I've heard this from people.
And by the way, then you'll say, you know what, man? When you have to be there coaching anyway, it's not even like you're there on vacation. You're just working the whole time, shooting and working. And I remember he said that, and because I do respect him, I kind of got pulled in that frame for a minute. You know, I started feeling that. And see, for me, my alternate experience, I remember the first time Nick Co, that he got me to travel to San Diego. And I remember flying from Canada over Chicago and just seeing this huge city and wondering, what's in there? Like, what is Chicago? By the way, Chicago's totally amazing.
Haven't been there yet.
No, your mind's gonna melt when you see like the downtown, like the river area. It's just unbelievable. Okay, we have those videos. Julia and I shot this one video boating through at night, and you got to see the day. We got to shoot some boat videos of the day there.
Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, now I love the enthusiasm too. So okay, yes. So yes. Okay, so I'll work on that one. So I remember though, flying over Chicago, just seeing this huge expanse of space, wondering what's in there. And I remember flying, I think it's like, it wasn't actually the Grand Canyon, it was like Utah or something, but it kind of looks like the Grand Canyon. And I remember I had this like meditative music that kind of came like as default in the airplane, and I'm looking down on it, looking at the snow mountains, just and in this like kind of meditative music, like this is so crazy. I went to San Diego, and I saw San Diego, and the thing that blew my mind the most in the world, I've said some videos before, is Baja Fresh. And it was these tacos that you could get. They have yellow salsa, green salsa, red salsa. It's dirt cheap. And they had this thing called the Horton Plaza. I think it's called the Horton Plaza. Have you been there?
I've been to San Diego. I love San Diego. I had
Okay.
a very similar experience.
Okay, so you got to get the Horton Plaza. I think it's called the Horton Plaza. Anyway, and it's this, we'll correct it otherwise in the video. And it's this like outdoor mall. And me as a Canadian seeing outdoor mall, multiple colors of, as I called it back then, salsa. And seeing this, I'm calling my friends back. I'm like, there's an outdoor mall. There's 2 different colors of salsa. I'm freaking out, right? And I remember I later went to LA. I went in the Highland Mall. Highland Mall, cheesiest tourist mall. But just seeing the Hollywood Walk of Fame again, like cheesiest tourist stuff in LA. So much better stuff in LA than that. But just in my mind, seeing that and seeing, you know, the Highland Mall with like the giant elephant, I literally thought I had made it to the big leagues, right? And since then, traveling to all the beautiful places in Hollywood, honestly, since that point, every time that I wake up in the Hollywood Hills and I look upon the city, I feel no difference, the exact same sense of gratitude that I've had ever since I first moved there. When I lived in Hawaii for 4 years, every day I could look out at the beach. I lived in front of the beach, small apartment in front of the beach, like it was the first day. No difference at all. Wow. Even with being successful in dating and some like really wild or kind of crazy experience I've had in dating, I don't get bored of it. Like people say to me, don't you get bored of it? I'm like, it is so awesome that I can meet people and have those wild, sort of intimate, crazy experiences. Like that doesn't get boring for me.
What do you think happens in the mind then? What do you think?
I worked for it.
Yeah.
I worked so hard, did so much social interaction, killed myself to get it. I appreciate the heck out of it. I appreciate every meal, every travel that I get. I can't believe it. It worked. For now. And who knows if I'll lose at some point and maybe I gotta make it back. Who knows? Who cares? But at least it worked for a bit. And the thing is this, I remember he pulled that enjoyment out of me for a bit and I got it back. But I remember at one point, I did a trip in Mexico. It's after the Blueprint, like I mentioned, and we had a story from earlier. We're gonna tie that thread now. And I remember I went to Mexico, and for 6 weeks, I didn't work, and I just traveled around. And in Mexico, you have these incredible, like, people don't realize this about Mexico. It's actually a lot like Europe in many respects. Go to Oaxaca City, go to Puebla. It's old school, like rock, cobblestone rock, big, city squares. It's called a Zocalo, Taxco, Mexico. Puerto Escondido, Sayulita. There's these incredibly beautiful places in Mexico. You got to go see. I drove it. Some really painful stuff to see, really hurtful and painful to see with some of the challenges people have down there financially, and their infrastructure crumbling. But at the same time, stunning. People don't realize it. Like just south of the border, it's amazing. Honestly, you got to go see Mexico. And so I went there, drove around with the mom, my kids for about 6 weeks. And the first several weeks, I really appreciate it, like I always do. But after not working for maybe a month, it got to the point where all I wanted to do was get in, and they have these castles. Now I know, me gallivanting from castle to castle. They're not nearly as expensive, say it, as a castle would be like in Europe, right? It might be be like, $150, $200 a night. But all I want to do if I go to Puebla was get in the castle hotel. I've got to be in the proper castle hotel and get to the best 5-star restaurant. And it got to the point where I felt like I was in this weird hell realm, because what happened was I became disconnected from that powerful sense of accomplishment and that sense of who I am. I lost that. And what's weird is that when you forget that feeling, not only do you not have it anymore, you might actually forget that you ever did have it. In the same way, like I haven't drank alcohol in many years. And to be honest with you, I don't remember what alcohol feels like. Now, to be fair, that's probably a good thing. In my case, in my case, I'm an extremist. So if I start drinking, I'll be living out here on the beach, like drunk and, on meth or something, just with my crazy personality. But at the same time, I don't remember it. Well, that's probably for the best in my case. But, debatable, but just, I feel that for myself. But with losing that sense of accomplishment, and you forget that, you don't have that underlying permanent hum of good feeling anymore. And so all you have is the castle. And then if I couldn't get in the castle, I start feeling sad. And I remember even the mom of my kids, who's incredibly appreciative, I remember at one point, like I was actually negotiating a $500 pair of shoes down to like $150. I love negotiating in stores. And at one point I said, no, you can't get those. And I remember she actually started crying. And I was like, the mom of my kids?
Oh my God.
Yeah, but that's not her. Like, that's so not her. That's not the way she is. Now, I said that to negotiate. I got those shoes down from like $500, like $180. It was awesome. Cool shoes too. Haven't thought of those in a long time. But point being was, I love just practicing negotiating with stores that are independent. You can't really do that like in a big chain store as much, maybe somewhat. But if the store owners, I love to kind of play ball, and I love the feeling of like the aliveness of that.
Yeah.
So basically, what will happen is, like, I remember she started crying, and I was like, she's becoming like this. I'm becoming like this. I almost feel like I'm gonna cry if I don't get in the castle, and I couldn't figure out why. Well, I later realized when I went back that it really was because I'd lost that underlying feeling where I hadn't given, so I couldn't receive. And it's almost, I'm in this like land of the hungry ghost, right? So in Buddhism, I think it is, they say there's almost like a subworld where there's these creatures with big fat bellies, but long mouths and little long mouths, like a long straw mouth. And no matter what they do, they can't fill their belly. And that was how I began to feel. And I've seen this with friends of mine who become very wealthy, and they start traveling. They lose that feeling of having given. They don't know how to receive anymore. And the problem is, at that point, and here's the big key of it, you need bigger and bigger stimulation to feel. And that's where you might get into some really weird kinky stuff, perhaps. Not anything, whatever your thing is your thing. But it could be someone who might need that to even feel anything.
It's not even that. I mean, it's like, you jump out of a plane or whatever it is. You go more extreme, like live a little bit more on the edge, go maybe to the Amazon or somewhere you want to feel it.
Here's how I think about it. If you want to say, let's say that you jump out of a plane, you go to the Amazon it's your relationship to it. So let's say you're jumping out of a plane, go to the Amazon, because those are actually one of my great dreams, actually go to the Amazon.
Or jumping out of a plane over the Amazon.
Okay, all right, we'll combine them. So let's say that you went there for the purpose of, to expand your consciousness, to live life to the fullest, that's one thing. But let's say that you need more and more extreme things, and those more and more extreme things can begin to become dark, actually, because your relationship to them changes. And so that's where the person might need to do, say, hard drugs. And we see a lot of celebrities fall into hard drugs because some celebrities are part of the process from the start. They've had to work their way up and build their way up slowly. But take that friend of mine who got the ability to travel. Now, he worked very hard for it, but he didn't have to build it in the same way. And so because of that, he didn't have to kill himself to do it, and he wasn't working. You've had to work a lot harder than he has. So he didn't have to work as hard. So as a result, he couldn't enjoy the travel. And by the way, he was very into alcohol. And it was a dark, low vibration relationship to alcohol. It wasn't fun, I think. It was truly a dark, low vibration relationship. Well, that's what you see is at a certain point, they could start doing cocaine, heroin, meth, very hard drugs. Even the Jenkins, look that one up. Do a Google for the Jenkins. Crazy stuff. So, okay, it's where they huff fermented feces. So, okay, so basically, probably quite powerful. So, point being, look it up. Didn't make it up.
How do you
YouTube
know about this stuff?
I have a video coming out featuring the Jenkins. So, point being, stay tuned. So, okay, so point being, you get a dark relationship to it, and you need more and more extreme things to even feel, and because you've lost that underlying relationship.
I believe alcohol makes you feel empty. When you
it's a cycle.
It actually, takes everything out of you.
Deadens you even more. Yeah. And then you need more and more is the main key to it. And so what I've even seen like rich couple friends of mine get to the point where my friend's wife has become, in effect, almost like what I was saying about the shoes with the mother of my kids, but then she totally came out of that and like went back to normal and like is amazing. But I've seen it where like my friend's wife will become a 100x version of that, where she is so disconnected from reality, and then my friend will keep trying to please her, So as a result of continuing to try to please her, he'll fall in that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's literally a hole. And here's my kind of last thought in that. I remember at one point, I had another time like that, not quite the same as the Mexico trip, but I had another girlfriend, and we had a very vigorous, intimate situation.
Yeah.
Okay, very vigorous. Great portions of our day were spent in our newfound affection for each other. And what happened was, honestly, I was probably about 12 hours a day that we just kind of spent hanging out in my room. And it was a great time of my life. I don't regret it. It was awesome. But Julian had actually been traveling.
Yeah.
Okay, and Julian was traveling and just gangstering it out. I mean, really hardcore. And he came back, and I started saying things to him like, you know, man, and I had really mentored him so effectively to understand the bigger mission of what we're doing, real self-esteem. Because funny enough, he'd even been in that pit. He has a lot of stories about that himself, he talks about. So I had kind of mentored him out of it. And one of the main reasons I often mentor people out of it is because I know that I could fall back in it and forget. It's like you lose the light. You forget the light, and you need someone to it's like the fire in you goes out, and you need someone to re-extinguish it. We all do sometimes. And that's why we have to be surrounded with great people, and that's so important for yourself. So I remember Julian comes back, and I was like, have you ever just thought of like, you think we're like kind of crazy? We're like too intense, bro. Like, just relax. Like, I'm so relaxed here for the first time. And he was like, oh, and he was almost like slapping me, like, snap out of it. The legacy, the mission. I'm like, Julian, it all ends anyway. What does the legacy matter? I'm going to go back for another 12-hour session in my room with my new girl, right? Which was awesome. Don't get me wrong.
We become infatuated with that. You become like, so involved with it. Everything else just fades away.
It was awesome, but it had crossed a tipping point. And the problem was engorging myself. Because, look, I love to eat. I love, to meet someone amazing and spend time with them. Like, I love feeling, right? I love that. I love to gorge myself. I can't help it. It's who I am. It's what makes me so the way that I am, right?
Yeah.
I want to do things big. It's just the way I am. But because I'd gotten to a point with her where for maybe the first month or two, it was like bonding. Wouldn't change that. Great kind of start to get on the right foot with somebody, right?
Yeah.
But it could build a lot of shared positivity. But then what was beginning to happen was I think that I was leading her and my relationship down this track where I had lost that underlying awesomeness. I wasn't giving, couldn't receive, and needed to have more and more intimacy with her in order to feel okay with myself. And Julian had to slap me silly, breaking me out of it. And then, and thank God he did that, because I view it like it basically saved my life.
Yeah, at least you've got someone there, like, slapping you out of it, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I've had that's happened to me so many times, and you love it for the first, it might even be a couple of days, depending on how long you're staring into each other's eyes and enjoying each other's time. But then maybe a week goes by, and you aren't going out, you aren't contributing, you aren't being involved or doing activities together. Okay, because when you're just by yourselves, it becomes very intoxicating, and it actually it's sort of almost claustrophobic, to be honest, and it's like too much. And I believe that we're wired to give back, like I was mentioning before. And so when you're with a person where the energetic connection is so strong,
which it was.
Yeah, which it is. Maybe you've had this with someone, right? And you don't want to leave their side. You just want to stare into their eyes. But there comes to a point, and for everyone it's slightly different, but you can feel it. You can just feel it, and it's a slightly like, ugh. Like, what are we doing? We've been lying here for hours and hours and hours.
Get fat together.
Yeah, you just lie there.
Cornucopia to take each other off the market.
Yeah, I wonder what the chemical reaction though, because it's something that occurs. It's almost like you're creating that neural
It's awesome pair bonding, and it can create babies and create a bond, but it can also be toxic.
Yeah, super toxic. So I actually find myself getting irritable, like really irritable. Like maybe you've spent a lot of time with someone recently. It could be a friend, or it could be someone that you've been intimate with, and you're enjoying each other's time a lot. And there might just be one thing, and you go, oh, like, let's go out. Let's draw the curtains and open the doors and see the sunlight again. Let's be free. Let's be involved with this world. And you suddenly go, whoa, what have we been doing in here for so long? It might be 3 weeks we've been watching Netflix and been in the dark with like water and like, barely being able to see. You're like, where's
Is this your version?
Yes, this is my version.
Have you done this kind of thing with exes? Do you have some experiences?
You don't have a mission, you don't have the goals. Everything's like, it's like overwhelming in your head. And it's the same thing, but it's weird because they're totally opposite, right? We're talking about drinking alcohol or taking substances versus spending time with someone you have an energetic connection with. It seems bizarre.
But it can even be toxic, codependent.
That's what I'm saying. It equals the same emotional connection to it. So what emotion are you attaching to that feeling? because that's what's preventing you from being able to feel and be grateful and be able to go into places and really experience it, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess what we would wrap with here is this dream that society feeds you, that if somehow you had all this great stuff, you'd be so much happier. Well, like I said, you know, I probably brought 4 or 5 different girls in my life to that nice hotel, and I've never seen them be able to enjoy it the way that I could. And then finally, when I met someone that was able to enjoy the lobby while waiting for me to grab the gear, it's like, huh? It's the lobby. How do you like it that way? Oh, yeah, because you did the same hustle I did. Rather than buying the societal narrative that you're gonna get all this stuff easy and it's just gonna be this like cornucopia of you walking down the street, make a decision for a work-leisure balance. Enjoy contributing. Find something that you love to do, that you feel is contributed, that you believe in, even if it's not leisurely or offering sensorial novelty, but you believe in what you're doing is really what you want. And then from there, what you do is when you can receive something, much like that person who's drinking water in the desert loves it so much more. In the same way, the general enjoyment of your life will be subjectively a better experience. There's the science in many ways of accomplishment, could be an art of accomplishment too, but there's also the art of enjoyment. And that contribution that you make is a part of that art of enjoyment. It's not just about the actual objective experience, it's also about how you experience it to you in your reality and in your own head subjectively, and enjoying that life that you live. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. When you say that, it just resonates.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for being part of the video, guys. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Peace.